Simon Yates cut the rope, and his climbing partner disappeared into the darkness below. That should have been the end. On almost any mountain in almost any storm, a fall like that ends one way. But Joe Simpson didn't die in that crevasse. He crawled out of it. And what he did over the next 3 days became one of the most respected survival stories ever recorded. Not because it was heroic in the movie sense, but because it was relentless. Peru, 1985. Joe Simpson and Simon Yates were two young British climbers attempting a dangerous route on Ciudad Grande in the Andes. The climb had gone surprisingly well. They reached the summit and started descending in worsening weather, moving carefully through snow and ice high above the glacier below. Then Joe slipped. The fall shattered his leg instantly. His tibia slammed upward through the knee joint, destroying it completely. At nearly 19,000 feet, with a storm closing in and no rescue possible, it was the kind of injury people usually don't survive. But Simon refused to leave him behind. He built a lowering system with the rope and slowly brought Joe down the mountain section by section through freezing wind and whiteout conditions. Somehow they kept moving. Then Joe went over the edge of a hidden cliff. 1 second he was being lowered through the storm. The next, he was hanging in open air above nothing but darkness. Simon couldn't see him, couldn't pull him back up, couldn't safely climb down to him either. For more than an hour, he held Joe's entire weight while the mountain slowly dragged both of them toward death. This is the part people still argue about. Simon cut the rope, but survival decisions don't look clean from the inside. Simon had no way of knowing whether Joe was alive, unconscious, or already dead. He only knew that if he kept holding on much longer, both of them were going to fall. So he made the only decision that seemed possible. The rope snapped free, and Joe fell into the crevasse below, while Simon descended alone, believing his partner was dead. Joe fell nearly 30 feet into the ice, but the impact didn't kill him. He landed on a shelf deep inside the crevasse, surrounded by darkness and silence. Above him, the opening was too high to climb with a destroyed leg. Most people would have stayed there. Joe looked down instead. Far below him, he noticed a faint triangle of light where the glacier met the mountainside. Not above him, below him. So instead of trying to climb out, he lowered himself deeper into the crevasse toward the light. Somehow it led him out onto the glacier beneath the mountain, broken, alone, and somehow still alive. What followed over the next 3 days is the part that stays with people. Joe Simpson crawled back to base camp alone across miles of glacier and rock with a shattered knee. No food, almost no water, barely able to think clearly. His body started shutting down, and he hallucinated constantly. At one point, a song got trapped in his head and repeated for hours while he dragged himself forward through the ice and snow. But the most important thing wasn't the pain, it was the way he thought. Joe understood that if he focused on the full distance back to camp, he would stop moving. The distance was too overwhelming, so he reduced survival to something smaller. He picked a rock ahead of him and made that his only target. Reach that rock, then the next one, then the next one after that. That became his entire world. Not courage in the abstract, not motivation, just movement. Small target after small target, while his body slowly broke apart around him. 3 days later, Simon heard a voice outside the tent. Joe had made it back, severely dehydrated, frostbitten, barely conscious, but alive. People call this story inspirational, but that word almost feels too simple. Joe Simpson survived because he stopped thinking about the impossible size of what stood in front of him. He survived because he reduced survival to one thing: the next move, the next rock, the next crawl forward. And maybe that's why this story still matters decades later, because most impossible situations are not survived all at once. They're survived one piece at a time, then the next, then the next. More stories of survival that redefine what humans are capable of follow